Welcome to the INTJ Equation, a channel on typology and psychology from the lens of an unhealthy INTJ. I am your host, Jeff. Today, we're going to talk about Kurt Cobain, who is actually an INFJ, not an INFP, as Personality Database wrongly describes as usual. It did take me a while to differentiate the two. I know he's actually a known heroin user, and he admitted that himself before his suicide. So, drugs and illicit substances like that can definitely play a part in typology and distinguishing cognitive functions as they speak. So I definitely just had to watch a few interviews and get the gist of what his type really was. Let's also take a minute to reflect on suicide awareness here. He was a very rich, famous person, and I think that rich and famous lifestyle kind of got to him after a while. A lot of his bandmates blame heroin. I'm sure that played a role, of course. And being married to Courtney Love would be hell as too, I'd imagine. He had a very unhealthy outlook. For those who are not believers in the duality thing, for relationships not to be very ideal, I haven't really looked into it, but Courtney Love definitely does come off as an ESTP, and he's an INFJ, so those are duality types. And while I guess they admired each other's opposites, but really it got the worst of Kurt Cobain. So be very cautious if you get into a duality relationship. I know a lot of people disagree with me on that, but yeah, you can look at this relationship and see. Another hard way to distinguish an INFJ and INFP is INFJs and INFPs are often misunderstood and often, in their shadow for being misunderstood, and kind of have to exist in this world where they're not accepted or understood. If you like this content, please like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment below if you disagree with me and you think Kurt Cobain is an INFP and not an INFJ, as I will show evidence here in this video. If you think he's another type altogether, leave a comment for any general reason. In this video, I could only find 2 good interviews with Kurt Cobain. This is when he lived before the internet and smartphones blew up, and most of the other interviews he did was with the rest of the band. And the bass player did most of the talking in those interviews, who I think is an ENTP. Dave Grohl seems introverted as well. I'm not sure what type he is, but definitely didn't talk much in those interviews, actually. This first clip shows Kurt talking about his stomach ailments that he suffered with, and he even said he was suicidal with his stomach issues as well. So I'm sure it was a big collection of things. And just a disclaimer, I'm not a Kurt Cobain or a Nirvana fan. I guess I should say I'm not a Nirvana fan. Kurt Cobain seems actually like a cool guy. But anyways, he's using TE here, talking about how doctors are a scam, how he went through one medication to another. They never gave him a proper diagnosis, and they just went to school just to become scam artists. Where TE users, especially ISTJs, ESTJs, it's not always the case, but they really look at credentials and doctors, and they often become doctors. Even like low TE users like an INFP, which Kurt Cobain is accused of being, is a lot more likely to look as a doctor, as like an authority, and basically God's word, and take it for the truth.
Do you find anything that...
It's gone.
Yeah?
Yeah. I finally have been prescribed the right stomach medicine after 6 years of being in constant pain. Finally, I haven't had a stomach problem for like over a year now. Yeah.
Did they finally figure out what it was, or did they just finally...
No, they never figured out what it was. I mean, most gastrointestinal doctors don't know anything about the stomach diseases. They just have a PhD, They get paid a lot of money for pretending and prescribing you different drugs, and it's a total scam as far as I'm concerned, because I've been going to doctors for 6 years, and I've tried every drug available except for this one last one that's brand new, and it finally worked. And it can't be, what do you call that? I mean, it isn't.
This next clip is Kurt Cobain using NI rather than NE. If he was an INFP, he would most likely be using NE, unless it's really shadow focused, but in this case, I don't think it is. He's talking about the video they shot, Smells Like Teen Spirit. He's very disappointed because he pictured it in his mind and it didn't come out that way. I know as an NI user myself, an NI hero, I kind of picture things as I go out, and it doesn't always turn out to plan, but when it doesn't, when it's totally different, it kind of is really disappointing. So I can see where Kurt's coming from here. and I can resonate with that.
Actually, the only thing that I've heard in interviews say anything that any kind of disappointment about any of them was "Smells Like Teen Spirit," that not turn out to be exactly what you thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, although it worked, I mean, I liked the video overall, but it wasn't what I pictured in my mind. When I come up with an idea for a video, I want it to be translated exactly how I see it in my mind, and it just wasn't that way.
In this next clip, Kurt was criticizing a Tool video that came out for ripping off something called Brothers Quay. I'm not sure what that is, but that's not the point of this clip, this video. While I'm not a Tool fan, it's one of their claymation videos they did, and he kind of fluffs it up with his FE, saying, well, it was a neat video to watch, while criticizing at the same time. An FI user would just probably give their opinions and call it a day and wouldn't try to make things look nice. Maybe an INFP would, but I don't think so in this case. He's trying to say, it's a real neat video to watch. And he's also very direct, which INFPs aren't. They're very informative in the way they communicate. And he's like, at the beginning of the clip, he's like, oh God, I hope they get sued. And INFP isn't likely to communicate that.
You know, oh God, I hope they get sued.
You did a great job ripping them off, but it is so...
It is such a rip-off. It's a shameless rip-off. I mean, I wanted a Brothers Quay style, but I didn't want anything like that, you know. That was terrible. I mean, it's a neat video. It's really nice to look at, but I mean, I'd rather watch a Brothers Quay video, you know.
Yeah, God, I mean, even down to like stuff coming through windows on walls.
Yeah,
so,
meat going through tubes and
yeah.
I mean pipes and shameless. They'd be slapped on the wrists for that.
This next clip is a different interview. This is one of the last interviews he did before he took his own life, and he's being very direct when he's talking about lawyers being involved and how being a rock star isn't all that glamorous, and he's very direct when he says, yeah, it's totally unnecessary too, when he's talking about having to spend a lot of his money on lawyers. Cobain presents more TE talking about how stupid it is and not looking at the credentials of the lawyers and the system and, you know, having faith in the system. And he's being really direct again later in an interview when he said it was too late when he realized that things were that way. I think an INFP would take the time and elaborate more and not be so straightforward with it and be more wishy-washy.
Isn't it a weird world for you to suddenly have lawyers and like people who do stuff like that for you?
Yeah, it's totally unnecessary too. If we weren't in this position, we wouldn't need lawyers, you know? It's total unnecessary, and we have to spend a lot of money just to protect ourselves all the time, and it's just stupid.
When did that first hit you? When did you realize that you're going to need some people on your team to protect you from the vultures?
Too late. You know, much after the fact, after we'd already been damaged to a point where it, you know, almost didn't do any good. You know?
This next clip shows Kurt Cobain using his NI again. This one's a little weird. He's talking about how he's being tired of, you know, being labeled as a grunge band, and he's really interested in breaking in the new wave, and he wishes that new wave and breakdancing would come back. I didn't know breakdancing was a part of new wave, but apparently maybe it was. I don't know. Was it alive during that period, really? Or I was just born, I guess. Cobain is using NI, saying that he envisions himself becoming new wave and losing the grunge image. And this is one of the last interviews he did before he died. So, of course, they didn't get to do that.
But we're getting more new wave as the days go by. I think we're going to reinvent new wave and bring back breakdancing. I'd really like to bring back new wave and breakdancing. You know, meld it to something. I don't know. That's what our new music is sounding like. We're using a lot more effects boxes, and we haven't resorted to skinny ties, but I think our music's, you know, this album's like the closing of the chapter of the formula we've been using, you know. It's like grunge is really kind of boring for us, you know. It's something we can't deny, and we're not going to stop playing the old songs live. Whoops. And but you know, our tastes are just changing so rapidly that we're really experimenting with a lot of stuff, and it might get too indulgent and be really embarrassing for the next album, but we can't put out another album, and this is just like the last chapter of 3-chord grunge music for us.
This next clip is showing Kurt Cobain being direct, having a preference for direct communication again, where an INFP has preference for informative communication. INFJs, like INTJs, are chart the course types, meaning that they're responding, direct, and progression. INFPs are behind the scenes where they're informative, responding, and control. So that's a big obvious differential thing. I think that Linda Berens Interaction Style is a big missing piece of typology, and that's why he often gets confused as an INFP. But anyways, he's talking about how music is sexist, and the interview asked him about like how he puts that in his music, and he's very direct, saying, by writing songs as blunt as Rape Me, where an INFP probably wouldn't do that. Cobain later continues in an interview in this clip saying that he wanted to be blunt and obvious so people wouldn't get the wrong message. So he's showing very direct preferences of communication here.
I think one of the interesting things about Nirvana that you don't really talk about that much is that you're very concerned about sexism. I like that. That's good. So how do you make people aware of that problem?
By writing songs as blunt as Rape Me. Having to resort to doing something like that is almost embarrassing because people didn't understand when we wrote a song like about a girl or Polly, and having to explain that and having misunderstandings about it, I decided to write Rape Me in a way that was just so blunt and obvious that it's like no one could deny it, no one could read into it any other way, although some people have actually, because some of the lyrics in it, some people have thought that maybe it has something to do with my disgust with the media and the way they've treated us and stuff like that, but it's not true. That's not what the song's about at all. It's just my way of, in a sarcastic way almost, of like just saying how obvious do we have to be,
This will be the final clip for this video. This clip will show Kurt Cobain using SE talking from the perspective of his band rather than himself. SE users, they generally talk about the perspective of others if there's others around from past memories, where SI users will talk from their own experience. So if he was an INFP, he'd most likely be talking from his own experience, but he's talking about it from his band. And he's talking about being afraid of losing connection with his fans, which shows a strong indicator of FE. There's this one clip, unfortunately, I couldn't find. I think it was when he was with his bandmates that kind of drowned him out. The ENTP guy did, the bass player. And he's talking about playing guitar and singing at the same time. And he just couldn't concentrate on that and feeling the emotions of the crowd. So I think that's a really, really strong indicator of FE.
Well, a couple of years ago when we were making these bold negative statements about things like that, we were really confused, and we were scared. We were afraid that we would lose a lot of our audience that meant a lot to us, because they're people that we hopefully feel that we have a connection with, the college students and people in the underground. And I don't think we've lost them. I think they're still fans, so I'm not worried about it anymore. And I was at the time.
Thank you for watching this video. If you like this content, please make sure to like, share on social media or anywhere you can, Reddit, and subscribe. Also, you click the notification bell so when a new video comes out, you are the first to know. Thank you for going beyond the clickbait, and have a great day.